I just want to start by saying thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. I suppose we should start right at the beginning. How did you kind of get exposed to theatre? How did your love of theatre begin?
Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to try to keep these questions short. I grew up in a dysfunctional family, and I think that was um, the catalyst. Is that the right
Hmm.
word?
Yeah.
For wanting to express myself.
Hmm.
And my mother, very at a very young age, she took me to a play in the town next to me. I grew up in North Jersey. It was at a university, and it was this little back building that they had there.
Hmm.
Um, and we saw Butterflies Were Free. Butterflies Were Free? I think I can't remember the name, but the guy was the actor was blind,
Hmm. Oh, wow.
and it was just an amazing performance. I'll never forget that. I was very, very young.
Hmm.
And then as I got older, I got turned on to George Carlin and then Richard Pryor. And I realized years later what I loved about them was not that they were funny, but that I felt there was something they were saying that was truthful. I didn't
Hmm.
always laugh at their jokes. I just laughed at the sheer honesty. And then growing up in a dysfunctional family, I just felt I always had a need to express myself.
Hmm. Totally. Obviously, you mentioned there sort of the importance of the funny and the jokes, but obviously you've gone into sort of comedy, the comedy sphere as well. So how did that sort of start?
Um, the best I could think, and I do a lot of thinking about my life, is that like I said, at a young age, I heard Carlin and Pryor,
Hmm.
and I know this sounds really silly, but I wanted to be an actor. And I once heard someone say that acting is easy, comedy is easy, comedy is easy, dying is hard.
Hmm.
That phrase. And I really took that literally as a kid. And I thought, well, if I want to be a great actor, I should try to do this comedy thing.
Hmm.
Also, being in a dysfunctional family, I was the entertainer. I was the youngest.
Yeah.
I didn't really love making people laugh, but I did it out of survival. I remember
Yeah.
in about seventh or eighth grade, me and my friends in my few block radius were hanging out with other kids up the block, and they had some other friends from a few blocks away, and one of them said, "Oh, I heard of you. You're the funny guy," and I was kind of offended
Hmm.
because I just wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be the funny guy. I just wanted to be Tommy.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it sort of gravitated towards that, and I liked that I was able to have a voice.
Hmm.
Um, on the dysfunctional side, I liked that I didn't have to really, or at least I thought I didn't have to really um, deal with people so
Hmm.
much because when you're a comic, you're on stage and you're by yourself and you're in control and you're the comic and then this is your show and you leave and you go. I
Yeah.
didn't know I had to also, socialize with people, and I did not do well with that in high school.
And in those two worlds together, obviously you got into writing. So was A Cat in
Yes.
the Box your first piece that you've created yourself, or were there others?
Yes, A Cat in a Box is my first solo show,
Hmm.
and it's growing up. I talk about it in the show. I grew up in a dysfunctional alcoholic family, like a lot of people, um, and I've wanted to do something since I was a little kid. I remember telling my siblings, "I'm going to write a book about this family someday."
Hmm.
I just knew that there was something wrong and it should be told.
Hmm.
And for so many years, I would on and off write a monologue and I would go to some performance space in New York and I would read it and people would say, that was really interesting. You should keep going. And I would come home and I would take the monologue and I'd put it underneath something and
Yeah.
it would disappear. I have some old ones laying around in drawers somewhere. And the paper's like so brittle. So this is my first piece and I wanted to do it for years. And then during the pandemic, I had an opportunity and I was studying to be a teacher.
Hmm.
So I was near the end of my master's degree and I was sitting in my basement working on a term paper one day and I was reading another study about the effects of childhood trauma. And I thought, how many more studies do you need to read?
Hmm.
Your family was dysfunctional. You were right. Something was wrong there. And I started to cry. And I started to write a monologue that night. And I started to go to Zoom open mics. And I said, I'm doing this. My story needs to be told. I need
Hmm.
to tell this story.
So you had all those little parts, the monologues of certain events or moments. What was it like putting them all together? How did they blend?
They didn't. Good question. They did not blend. I sent them to a good friend of mine who is a TV writer, and he called me up and he's like, Tommy, I love the honesty. I love it. Keep coming with the honesty. And he was very gentle. He said, over time, it's gonna take shape.
Mm.
Um, and I was committed to some of the monologues because some of them were about how much I hated my siblings. And my director slash coach would say to me, look, it's your show if you want to keep this, but I'm just saying, look at the structure. It doesn't move your story, and your
Mm.
story is about how you overcame this trauma, not you know how bad your siblings were,
Mm.
if that makes sense. So a lot of them changed. Some of them, there's parts of them there, and some of them they're not there at all. Like the
Mm.
whole thing about my siblings not showing up to the show. I wouldn't invite them anyway because they would just sit here and criticize me the whole time. And no one wants to come to a show and hear that.
So obviously these are the whole play is based on your experiences and things you've gone through. So what
Yes.
is it like putting on something so vulnerable and raw?
I laugh, and that's a nervous laugh. When I
Hmm.
was in acting class years ago, I remember I used to do that laugh. And just a side note, and I was in a Meisner class, which is a very intense, emotional, and we were doing an exercise, and the girl said, "Why are you laughing? And why I don't like your laughing." And the teacher said, "He's not laughing. Look at his face. It's
Hmm.
not funny." And she looked at me and she went like, "Whoa." uh, so it wasn't easy. It still isn't to this day. I mean, it's only been a few years. When I think about it, I think like, oh, I gotta relive this again.
Hmm.
And then I remind myself, but at the end, I'm gonna feel free again when I
Mm.
go through the whole show. You know, I
Totally.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to do it. And I remember this interview I heard on the radio with Billy Joel once talking about, I forget what song it was he was writing, or maybe just, a lot of his songs. And he was saying how difficult it is and how much time it takes. He said, but at the end, I get to
Mm.
play it.
Mm.
So at the end of the day, I get to play my solo show. I get to go up and tell my story.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned they're obviously bringing a director in to help sort of mold the show.
Yeah.
Was there friction because they're based on true experiences? If you go in, well, it needs to happen like this. This is what I was feeling, so this is important, and there being some sort of conflicts there.
Not with the director I have now, but I never had real conflicts. But when I was trying to find someone, I talked to a few other people that I thought about working with,
Mm.
and they didn't understand what I was trying to do. This person, Jim Mandrinos, that I'm working with, I've known him through comedy for many years and personally also, not like a best friend.
Hmm.
I have a few friends. If you come to see my show, you'll hear that. I just isolate. I feel like I'm safer that way. I'm getting better.
Mm.
Even doing this is really past my comfortability
Mm.
level. Um, so he understood what I wanted to do. He understands more than anyone. Like there's a part in my show where I'm I don't want to take it too much out of context where I'm talking about my family, my parents fighting in the kitchen, how I watched them fighting through a window when I was a kid and I felt so hopeless. And then I go back to this little side thought about how I was working in an Italian restaurant and I would get chicken parmesan. I'd have to break the breast off by
Mm.
hand sometimes. I'd have to twist and turn. And when I wrote that, I knew very clearly because then I screamed twist and turn, twist and turn, twist and turn, and I knew that was directed toward my parents. A lot of other people didn't. He got it
Mm.
like that, and he's like, and when you do that twist and turn, why don't we go back to the window where you were just
Yeah.
watching your parents? And I was like, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. That's
Mm.
exactly what I want. So we have a lot of those moments. Are these
Mm.
too long? I feel like I'm going on too long. We have a lot of those moments when we're working together. A
Mm.
lot. And
Oh,
it's
fun.
great. And I got
Mm.
really lucky. I got really, really lucky because someone else, and I'm influential, someone else might have, guided me towards,
Mm.
a whole different angle.
Yeah, and the person you have now could have been busy, could have been doing another project. It just lined up
Yes.
perfectly.
Yeah, I got really lucky. I always say, I worry a lot,
Mm.
but I always say that in Tommy Nemec's world, everything always works out the way I want it to. My only fault is not asking for bigger. That's
Mm.
my only fault. I always ask for, like
Mm.
Edinburgh. I'm like, oh, I would love to get at least 10 people a show. And then the other day I thought, no, why don't you want to love to fill the room up
Mhm.
every night?
Yeah,
Instead of being
totally.
so humble. Oh, 5 people would be great. Yeah, it would be better than none.
Yeah.
But why not shoot for the stars?
Yeah.
Why not shoot for a fringe first if I can, in my mind and
Yeah.
visualize that. And so,
Hmm. Totally. Obviously, we talked about how the show was built and how it came together, but kind of the important question is, where does the name come from? A cat in a box.
um, well, I guess I could talk about it. It's in the show.
Mm.
And I said for many years, I've been in recovery for a long time. I've been
Okay.
in a 12-step program, uh,
Mhm.
AA. I've been in AA for 36 years this July and other 12-step programs. And I've said for many years that, well, I neglected dealing with my childhood trauma until about 15 years ago. And for so many years, I would say, as a child, I felt like I was brought up like a cat in a box,
Mm.
as if you took a little cat and put it in a box and put a cover on it and just left it there. And
Mm.
you fed it some food and it didn't get any love, it didn't get any attention. And then when it gets older, you take the cat out, you brush its fur, and it acts crazy. And people
Mm.
say, why does that cat act so crazy? It looks so nice. What's wrong with that cat? Why is it so crazy? There's something wrong with that cat. But they don't know the cat lived in a box.
Yeah.
I didn't physically
Mm.
live in a box. Nobody pushed
Yeah.
me into a box. I know. But that's how I felt. I felt emotionally that I was so stunted that I was brought up um, neglected,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah. So then taking obviously
Gush, 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 gush. If I could do a little ab fab, gush, gush, darling, gush, gush. I always love that show.
So
That's me
obviously we talked
crying.
about the sort of the rawness and the emotionalness of the show. But on top of that, you are the solo performer of the show. You are the only person on the stage.
Yes.
So does that add pressure being the only person to hold the show?
Yes, but I love it. Growing up, the entertainer in the family,
Hmm.
I feel like this is my medium. I was talking to another fellow comedian last night, and she had a solo show, and she's putting it back together. And we were saying, like, comedy, stand up is fun, but theater really moves you.
Mm.
And having a solo show, it's like, it's great for someone who has um, that background of being a solo performer in stand up, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And then
Mm.
if you want to do, rather than being in an ensemble, which is fun also.
Hmm.
But I love it. I love that it's me up there. Not that people are looking at me, but that I'm in charge of what happens up there. And I'm responsible for how the audience is feeling at
Mm.
every second. And I can't think like I can't go into the wings for a minute while the other people hold the
Mm.
stage. It's
Yeah.
intense. It's an intense feeling, and I really love it. I love it.
Mm. So adding all that stuff onto you, you must have been a big payoff when you got the notification that you are heading to the Edinburgh Fringe. So what was
Yes,
it like
yes.
getting that call, that message? I'm not entirely sure how it works, but getting that notification.
I was very excited, and I do have to say, I don't know why I do this. Anybody can go to the Fringe.
Mm.
You could bring any show there, but I mean, the venues are also inundated. Is that the right word?
Hmm.
With requests. So they are I can't think of the right word. They do sift through
Hmm.
certain things. Like I had to send certain things and tell them about my show, and they wanted reviews if I had any, and they wanted to know what my show was about before they said, yes. Um, I was very excited. I mean, I wasn't sure because I did hear many people try and they just don't get a venue
Mm.
sometimes. So I was extremely excited. So excited that um, in my show I talk about how I had 175 jobs until I was 40, and I loved to quit things. I would quit everything. I would quit
Mm.
acting class. I would quit people. Um, you know,
Mm.
and so excited that I was like, oh my God, I'm not going. Like that's how
Yeah.
excited I was. I was scared. It
Yeah.
really that's why I quit things because I was scared.
Mm. So it's my first. I'm going to the Edinburgh Fringe for the first time this year as a punter, just to see some shows, and
Oh,
obviously,
great.
yeah. So hopefully I'll bump into you up there, which will be really fun. But how are
Yes.
you preparing for the Edinburgh Fringe? How are you getting ready?
Um, I'm running my show. We're
Hmm.
working on my show already. I am doing a short run in New York in May for 5 nights,
Hmm.
and other places like 1 or 2 nights throughout the tri-state. I don't know why I'm pointing. You're not here. I'm pointing that way throughout the tri-state area. I know it's a bad habit I have. When I'm talking to people, they're like, "What are you doing with your hands?" Um, so I'm just working on the show. I'm running it as much as I can and working on it with my director.
Oh,
But I
fantastic.
can't add too much material to it, which is fine because I only have a 50-minute time slot. But it's great the way it is. It's a little under 50,
Mm,
but we always want to make it a little bit better.
totally. That sort of constant refinement and improvement.
Yep, and promoting it. That's
Yeah.
the big thing. That's
Hmm.
the big thing. That's how I'm really preparing for Edinburgh.
Well, to sell out like your dreams, we're going to have to promote, and that works. That
Yes.
transitions perfectly to obviously I'll put the links below so people can scroll
Oh, thank
down
you.
and learn more about you and get tickets. But we are coming to the end of my questions.
Yes.
But I have a couple more. So
Sure.
what can people expect from A Cat in the Box? What is the show about? How would you describe it?
Oh boy. I can go on for hours about that. It's about childhood trauma,
Hmm.
how that affects us as a child and how it can stay with us as an adult, how it shadows the rest of your life, especially if it's untreated.
Hmm.
I went through life, I'm 60 now. I know I look great. Uh, I always say that, sorry. Um, and I went for many years wondering what was wrong with me. Like, what's
Mm,
wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And I knew that our childhood, meaning me and my family, wasn't normal. And I knew at the time that it just wasn't right.
hmm.
But still, there's this belief that when you get older, you should just learn and you should know. And when you
Mm,
get older, you're going to know things. Um, so if you, and I had untreated childhood trauma for many years.
mm,
Um, so that's what it's about. It's about untreated childhood trauma and how that changes us and affects us
mm,
as a child and an adult. Um, and I got a really good review, I just have to say.
mm.
Um, and one guy nailed it. I got a couple good reviews, but one guy said that I avoided the pitfalls of this genre
Hmm.
because often they could become a pity party. And me and my director worked very hard at not making it like
Yeah.
that.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
I wanted it to be a cathartic, if that's the right word, and it is. People tell me afterwards, like, "Oh my God, your show is still with me. You know, I remember that one thing. I was thinking of this the other day, how you said this and how you said that," and different people tell me different things.
Mm,
So it's very exciting.
mm. So, where can people stay up to date with you and the show?
Oh, they can stay up to date with me on my Instagram, I think. Cat in a Box Show, all one word.
Hmm.
I think that's a great spot. I put everything on there. There's a little trailer, a little 1 minute trailer of the show on there, which I think is great for people to see,
Mm.
especially people who might not be familiar with a. Um, I'm calling it more of a solo play. A lot of times in the States here, anyway, when you say solo show, people think of a stand up comic just telling
Yeah.
about their life in a funny way. And this is a darkly humorous, more dramatic
Mm,
solo play.
mm. So, as I said, I'll put the links below so people can scroll
Thank
down
you.
and click away. But my final question is, what advice do you have
Uh-oh.
for young creatives to do what you do?
Oh my God, do it. Do not wait for tomorrow. Do not
Hmm.
wait for the next hour. Do not, like what I did many times, sitting on this futon waiting until I got inspired. You
Mm,
know, always have the brush on the canvas with paint on it ready to go.
mm.
That's my advice because I was a procrastinator waiting for the
Yeah.
right moment till I felt the right way until I got inspired and I can't do it now. Just
Mm,
open up the computer, open up the notepad and go at it. And once you get it out, then you could change it. Like when I was working on my show, like I said, it was like all over the place.
mm,
But I knew, I just said, Tommy, this is going to be a show. You
mm,
have the framework, and now you just have to get in there and fix all of this and figure out what you really want to say and
mm.
how you want to say it.
Yeah, fantastic. So I said it at the beginning, and I'll end the same way. Thank you so much for taking the time out to sit
Oh,
down and chat with me. It's honestly been a pleasure.
oh, thank
And
you. You also.
thank you so much. And I do hope to bump into you up in Edinburgh Fringe.
Yes, I
You
want you. I
know,
would love for you to come to the show.
that'd be
Please.
amazing. But as I said, I'll put the links below so people can scroll down and click away. But I wish you the best of luck, and I shall speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.